I agree. I agree. So tell us, in your opinion, do you think online tournaments will be the new norm moving forward as hopefully this pandemic goes away or dies down?
I hope not. I think that there's going to be a place for hybrid. I think it's given us an opportunity to maybe have more cohort type of debates. Like there's instead of having an East Coast and a West Coast team have to travel to see each other, there should be more opportunity to debate, prepare, discuss. Right. So I think that's been a positive. Right. But there's nothing like the human interaction, right? Some
Mm,
of the reading that you do in a debate round is when did the judge look up? When did your opponent kind of like frown and stuff, right? Those kind of interactions are largely lost in a virtual context. And you know, I hope it's not the new norm, right? But I do think that our ability to support it from a technology perspective can be very empowering. Got to find a way to make it hybrid. Kind of find a way to make it complementary, but not replacement, right? Because I do feel very strongly that the human interaction and communication. I mean, at the end of the day, it's voice to voice. This conversation we're having right now, phenomenal. I'd much rather be sitting down with a coffee with you.
okay, I understand. I agree. I agree. I on the speech side of things, people I think people who are not familiar with speech don't realize that speech is more leans towards theater more than it does film, right? Because of that in-person aspect, right? We also must the students must feed off of the energy of the people in the round, right? And be able to speak and to deliver to everyone that is there, not just one other person, right? And so when that is taken away because of the screen, then now we've changed the medium virtually, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now,
So yeah,
and now in the speech world, I don't feel like we've really talked about it, but the question is the camera now a prop? If I leave the frame, am I using something different now, which I wasn't able to do prior to,
that's right.
right? And so now we have to change the whole mind frame of what technically is or is not acceptable in speech anymore. Is it truly speech? So I understand because I think we're on the other side of the forensics community is trying to understand this and hoping the same, that it will not become the new norm. Though for our peers who are competing in the heartlands of Alaska, this has always been their norm sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe there's a new speech category, right? Maybe we need to kind of invent new things
Yeah.
and make it complementary to what the technology, provides. You're reminding me of an experience that I had in high school because when we were in high school and we were debating, we were really hardcore policy debaters, right? But one of the rules that we had was at the end of the year, we would always have everyone had to compete in the local Newark speech tournament. All of us, every one of us,
Mm.
right? And I remember because I did an impromptu competition at Central High School, and I remember slamming my fist on the table, right? And I got effectively eliminated from the competition because I used the desk as a prop, right? And I had no idea, right? I didn't know the rules. I just basically was trying to just expand that kind of like that forensics activity.
Yeah.
But to your point, now if I were to slam my fist on the table, you don't know, right? Because it's all virtual. But I do think that likewise, it's debaters should be in speech, and speech kids should be debaters, just to understand what that feels like, because it is very, I think it fills you out, kind of rounds you out.
Yes, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think when I was in high school, a classmate and I, we said one day, we're like, we're gonna try. We were too scared to do like maybe LD or policy, but we're like, I think we're gonna try public forum. We're like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do PF. Yeah, let's do that. And then our coach was like, well, it's either gonna be speech or it's gonna be PF. And we were like, never mind. We kind of retracted that statement or that thought, but we really thought about it for a moment. So I agree with you. I do think there should be a crossover so it can build out a well-rounded student.
Yeah.
So do you think digital debate could now open doors to more international interactions?
So I think eventually it will, right? I think there are some new technological improvements we probably have to make, because I'm on Zoom and web conferences every day, probably half of my day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm speaking to folks who are localized here in North America, but also, again, like I said, I have responsibilities fairly globally, right? So the connectivity, the broadband is still kind of limited. I think that when you go and you try to balance out a debate internationally, you have to make some decisions on language, right? And who's to say that this language, we should use this language versus another language? I think that can be, it could be troublesome sometimes, I think, frankly, because in this world we're losing a lot of language, right? So we want to make sure we kind of retain that. Yeah. The other thing I'm frankly a bit concerned about, and it's funny because, again, I go back to a debate resolution, I think when we were juniors, about space exploration, right? How do we increase space exploration? And the topic is less important, but I do remember an argument saying, hey, why go into like Mars and space when we got so many problems here at home, right? Why should we do that and distract us from the current problem? And I think when you encourage international debate, and don't get me wrong, I don't think we should discourage it, but I do think that there are a lot of kids right here, right, that we can work with. That the power of the activity, speech, and debate can have positive impact on everyone. And sometimes when we get kind of ambitious about the fame and the extension of our name, we forget that there's still 100 kids around the corner. So I worry about that a little bit, right? But I do think that making sure that we have communication with other folks, other countries, other cultures is going to be important. But let's not forget that our focus, is to build a neighborhood, build a community, right? And those are the folks that hopefully, again, we're seeing face to face on a daily basis.
I agree. No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think I've met so many people, of course, out of high school, out of college, and when I've told them like, okay, this is what I've done, I've been a coach, and this is what I do, this is what my kids do every weekend, and they're like, oh, some people are like, I really wish I had, I wish my school had that when I was in high school. Like that would have been fun to try to give my hand at that, or maybe I could have found, maybe I wouldn't necessarily be where I am today, but maybe I could have gained some other skills along the way prior to this moment.
Agreed.
So I think that's really cool. That's really cool. So let's shift gears one last time, right? So tell us, Chris, who are some of your mentors? Or people you follow for inspiration, if there aren't any mentors.
No, I've had plenty of mentors in different kind of capacities in life, right? Again, I mentioned that my original coach was Brent Fran. My next coach when I was varsity in my junior year was Roger and Dave. They both grown up to do great things, right? One is the founder of the debate Newark Debate Academy, and then of course there's Roger Leon, who's doing some great leadership positions in Newark, and they've all given me kind of words of wisdoms along the way, what I should do and how I should be thinking about things. But ultimately, again, I look very internally. My mom and my dad, right? My mom in particular was, again, therefore I was born in Peru, but obviously, well, not maybe not so obviously, they were born in Peru as well. My father's Japanese, my mother is first generation Japanese, and my mom is Peruvian. So, they're like an interracial couple from Peru who eventually go to the United States, actually met in the Queens, and they kind of made it work, right? My mom was working at a factory, and then built a fairly large business of her own. So it's, they're very inspirational for me. In fact, it's tough to live up to them, so, those are kind of like the inspirations that I probably have.
Japanese, Peruvian. I'm coming to your house for dinner, so save me a
Nope.
plate.
My wife is Thai as well, so it's good eating.
Oh my gosh, that's all you had to say. For me, that's all you had to say. So Chris, tell us, are there any books that have influenced you the most that you believe?
So some of the books that stay with me, when I was in college, I started reading a bunch of very theatrical type of books. So I really enjoy Shakespearean plays, and Dante's Inferno. Like, that one sticks with me more than anything else for one strange reason. I'll tell you why, right? So, because Dante's Inferno, the thing I remember about that book was, who do you appreciate more, family or friends, right? And in the book, they talk about friends should supersede family, and the reasoning why was because you can't choose family, right? If you're born into family, they're family, right? And of course you love them, don't get me wrong, right? But when you choose to love friends, you're making active reach out relationship that you build over time. And I found that to be extremely true. I don't have a lot of friends, by the way, right? But the friends I do have, very dear to me, right? So, and the other book that probably stuck with me a lot was Jonathan Coleswell's Amazing Grace, which is a book about the state of education in the United States. So that's, it talks a lot about across the U.S., but it also had a case study on Camden as well, Camden, New Jersey. So distressed area for education, but we all try to make it work.
Yeah, no, I understand. So is there a book that you're currently reading now?
Yes, probably nothing that interesting for the community who's watching this, right? Talk a little shop. I mean, I'm reading some stuff on business processes and data analytics because it's a passion of mine. I'd love to be reading more Malcolm Gladwell because he's phenomenal and very insightful. And unfortunately, not reading him as much as I probably should. But those are the type of reads I like to do.
Okay. So before we leave, is there anything else you think is important for the community in Newark to know about debate?
I think that the community in Newark don't know how deep debate is in the community, frankly. The history goes way back. Even if you go back beyond the Jersey Open Debate League or university or science high school debate programs and speech programs at Barringer or Central, you go back to Paul Robeson, right? Paul Robeson and Rutgers, right? It's a very deep, long history, and we don't know that it's at least some of the founding debate programs in the high schools are founded in the 70s, right? So understand that the debate program is has long history. I think one of the problems that that we have as a community is that we don't tell our story enough. It's one of the great reasons why I appreciate being invited to this session, because we got to talk about what we've done and the breadth, or rather really the width of the debate community in Newark, where we've been all over the place for a long time. So I just remind them, right, that we've been around. If you're just finding out about us, it's probably our fault a bit, but we've been around for a long time.
Wow. Okay. Well, Chris, if you can leave us with one quote, original, excuse me, or not, that has impacted your life or that you'd like to be remembered by, what would it be?
My favorite quote is Mike Tyson's quote, which is, everyone's got a plan until you're punched in the face, right? And it always sticks with me because it just tells a story of, hey, in preparation is not just about, getting ready to do something. Preparation is for being prepared for the unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
And you see this in all areas of life, both in competition and debate. When someone makes an argumentation that you weren't ready for, you can't freak out, right? And if you're a boxing fan, everyone came into ring thinking, oh, this is what I'm gonna do to Mike, right? And then they would, feel the impact, right? And then what do? Some will react the right way, and some just frankly failed, maybe out of being unprepared. But even if they were really prepared, they weren't prepared for the shock of the unknown, right? So I think that everyone has to be ready for that. We see that today, right? Like, how do we respond to a pandemic crisis? How do we respond to political unrest, right? The worst thing we want to do here is to be such in shock we don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Actually, understand that sometimes in life it's going to be unwieldy, right? You're going to be completely unprepared, and take a deep breath and deal with it with some grace. We'll be a lot more successful if we're just ready to understand we're not perfect. We're going to fail. You're going to have minor failures. Deal with it and move forward.
I like that. That's a really great quote. That's actually, now I think that I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to keep that one in the personal bank. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But before we go, we play a little game always before the show is over. All so right. This game is called This or That. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
I will give a series of 2 options, and you will have to quickly tell us which you actually prefer, and one straightforward answer, or reason why. And we know as a debater, you can argue for any side, but this is a fun way to get our viewers to see more about you on a personal level, right? Yeah. But they don't go too personal, I promise.
All right.
So here we go. You ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Apples or oranges?
Oranges.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix, because I can mooch someone's ID.
Instagram or Twitter?
Insta.
Okay. Video games or board games?
It's been a while, but video games.
Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Choice. Movies or shows?
Shows. I can't wait to get back to a Broadway show.
You and I both. Books or movies?
So embarrassingly enough, I'd love to say books, but it's movies.
Gotcha. Winter or summer?
Winter.
Wow. Okay. Well, great. Hey, unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. Thank you all for taking the time to share and be with us in this moment. Thank you, Chris, for sharing your knowledge and your expertise here with us at the Newark Debater, and the viewers at home. Trust me, we really, really appreciate you taking your time out to be with us this evening. So if you like what you saw today, everyone, you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, and share with everyone. Your friend, your mama, daddy, uncle, cousin, I don't care. Hey, we want more people to watch. We want you to watch more. So see you all next time here at the Newark Debater.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.